right, so we're back for another deep dive. And today we're tackling something pretty interesting.
Yeah.
This all started with a statistic that one of our listeners flagged. And I have to say,
Hmm.
it really piqued our curiosity.
Yeah, for sure.
It's about Bitcoin and investing, and it's a pretty fascinating glimpse into
Totally.
how people are approaching this whole world.
Yeah, yeah.
So, to set the stage for our listener today, we are diving headfirst into the world of Bitcoin ETFs.
Okay.
But we're not just going to skim the surface here.
Right.
We're going deeper.
Love it.
We're looking at how people are actually using these ETFs, specifically U.S. investors.
US. Okay.
And we're focusing on something called HODLing.
Interesting.
And to help us break this down, we have an expert with us who can shed some light on what this HODLing business is all about.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
So let's get into it.
I got to ask you, what
Yeah.
is HODLing?
Well, it's funny where the term actually came from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a misspelling
Oh.
of hold in a Bitcoin forum back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And it kind of, took off from there.
Became its own thing.
It became its own thing, exactly.
So it's not just like holding on to an asset.
It's, it evolved into something much more strategic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the strategy?
It's really about this long-term vision.
Oh, okay.
You're weathering the market's ups and downs.
The volatility.
Exactly. You're not fazed by those dips.
Because.
You believe in Bitcoin's potential.
Right.
You're in it for the long haul.
And I think the statistic that our listener flagged really highlights this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in that 44% of U.S. Bitcoin ETF buying is for HODLing.
Wow. That's significant.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
It shows a real commitment from a sizable chunk of investors.
They're not just dipping their toes in the water?
No, they're diving in head first.
So then what about the other 56%?
Right. Well, they're likely taking a more active approach.
So they're not necessarily hodlers.
Not in the same sense, no.
But what are they doing? They might be responding to market movements
Oh.
or news or doing technical
They're
analysis.
trying to time the market.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to buy low and sell high.
That's really interesting because 44% hodling,
Yeah,
that's a lot.
it is a large portion.
Especially when you think about how vulnerable Bitcoin can be.
Right.
They're riding these waves, clinging to the mast through the storm.
And that speaks to the unique nature of Bitcoin.
Is this level of hodling common in other assets?
Not to this extent.
What is it about Bitcoin?
Well, there's this narrative around it.
Oh.
This idea of digital gold.
Right.
It's scarce, there's a limited supply.
And its history?
Yeah, it had these huge price swings.
Almost legendary.
Exactly. And that kind of fuels this hodl mentality.
So you're saying it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy?
In a way, yes.
The more people hodl,
the more the narrative is reinforced.
it's fascinating.
It is.
But isn't there a risk to just ignoring the market like that?
Well, there's always risk in investing.
Of course.
And hodling is no different.
What are some of the risks with this strategy?
The biggest one is that the value of Bitcoin could drop and keep dropping.
And if you're hodling,
You're exposed to that full downturn.
you're riding it all the way down,
That's the risk.
and you could miss out on opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. You could miss opportunities to buy dips.
Or to rebalance your portfolio.
Right, to diversify your holdings.
So it's not just about having diamond hands.
It's about understanding the potential downsides.
I dabbled in hodling some altcoins a while back.
Oh, yeah.
It was a wild ride.
I bet.
Really tested my patience.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
Do you think hodling requires a certain kind of personality?
It might.
Like what?
It takes discipline, for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and a high risk tolerance.
Because
You're betting on a future that's still uncertain.
very uncertain.
Exactly. And that's not for everyone.
Speaking of uncertainty,
Yeah.
if you're hodling a Bitcoin ETF,
Mm-hmm.
are you really hodling Bitcoin?
That's a great question.
Because-
with an ETF, you're not directly holding Bitcoin.
Right.
You're holding shares of a fund that tracks its price.
So there's an extra layer there.
There is, but the philosophy is the same.
Buy and hold long term.
Exactly.
So we've got these two distinct approaches.
Right.
Riding the waves versus weathering the storm.
I like that analogy.
What does it all mean for someone exploring Bitcoin ETFs?
Well, it comes down to self-reflection.
Okay.
You need to consider your own investment style.
Right.
And your goals.
What are you hoping to achieve?
Exactly. And are you comfortable with volatility?
Because,
HODLing comes with a lot of it,
or do you prefer a more active approach?
where you're making adjustments.
Trying to time the market?
Right. And there's no right or wrong answer.
It depends on the individual.
Completely.
That's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
It's been fascinating to explore this world of Bitcoin ETFs.
It has.
through this lens of hodling.
Yeah, it's a unique perspective.
And to our listeners,
yeah,
as you delve into Bitcoin or any investment for that matter,
right, any investment,
really think about your own style,
your own goals,
your risk tolerance.
Exactly. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.